We as LGBT people need to open up those borders so that we can move to places from Indiana, wherever, Mexico, Iran, whatever, move to some place that we are not going to be targeted and killed. And we need to do the work that we're doing just right this evening of keeping Chicago a relatively positive and open place for people to live. Immigration is an LGBT issue, and we all need to support more open borders.
Right.
I was fast asleep in my bed that night. When the cops broke in, I went without a fight. They said they were taking me down to the station to ask me some questions. They sped off in the opposite direction. They stopped the car in front of an old deserted shed. They dragged me inside, and one of them said, "Boy, you're dead." I saw rope pump from the ceiling from the rafters. I had no idea what the hell they were after. Pulled the rope, they had me covered behind my back. As my feet left the ground, I heard my shoulders red. It all fell silent. They said, "Goodbye, nigga." They stuck the gun deep in my mouth and pulled the trigger. The gun clicked and they all fell over laughing. Wrapped a cord around my neck, I blacked out, didn't know what was happening. When I awoke, they moved me to the station. That was only the beginning of my interrogation. Inside, they said they had proof I was a perpetrator. When I denied it, they handcuffed me to the radio. They'll have me down, and each of them took turns, and soon my whole body was covered with burns. I attached my hands and feet to some hooks in the wall, pulled out a black box, attached the clips to my balls. They said there's only two options, you know what to choose. I chose the good, but I'm the choose. Hell yeah, I confess, and you would too. They held a plastic bag around your head till you turn blue. Kick you as they hold your head out of water. Beat you till you look like a dog that's been slaughtered. I had my ground for over 17 hours. But by the end, I was nothing but a coward. I signed the papers, they put me on death row. I never thought this could happen in Chicago. An innocent man has to fry, so the public can get back to their lives. The public defender can clear off his desk. The police won't have to work to make the real arrest. The prosecutor becomes a leader in the community. The jury can all go back to their families. The press is happy to fuel the charade. America thinks that that's a fair trade. The case wasn't supposed to be a death penalty, but all that changed when they got a new state's attorney. My PD said I was somewhere in his pile. I never met him till the day of the trial. My PD had the files on the wrong prisoner. Why do you think they call him penitentiary deliverers? He got drunk the night before and got into an altercation. He fell asleep during the cross-examination. It was obvious the judge wasn't in a hurry. They made sure it wasn't all white jury. 3 officers verified it wasn't coerced to confess, and I don't have the money for a DNA test. The evidence to clear me is in the prosecutor's office. The real killer was their chief witness. Primed him with details that wouldn't be too hard and handed him a get-out-of-jail-free card. An innocent man must get the chair so the TV can proclaim they've cleared the air. The fair can get a fake sense of closure. The state's attorney can now run for mayor. The judge can take a long vacation with his draft. The real killer can have a good laugh. The ultimate price must be paid. America thinks that that's a fair trade. When I'm standing there, I'm to touch all sides of the cell. For 15 years, I've been living in this hell. I'm in for appeal, but I didn't do the crime. It's taken so long, I've already done the time. All day long, you sweat from the heat. Brothers scream all night, you can't get any sleep. The plumbing never works, coming water is a privilege. All the time the cells are flooded from the sewage. Keep you in lockdown for 23 hours a day. When a cop is dead, someone has to pay. The guards have their fun, make you crawl on your knees. In my cell it gets to be 100 degrees. The toilets are backed up, there's no ventilation. That's nothing compared to the mosquito infestation. I breathe in and out at night to fight the hunger. Maybe it would be better if I was 6 feet under. An innocent man has to fry, so the public can get back to their lives. The public defender can clear off his desk. The police won't have to work to make the real arrest. The prosecutor becomes a leader in the community. The jury can all go back to their families. The press is happy to fuel the charade. America thinks that that's a fair trade. Thank you. All right, this next song is about fighting the good fight. When I was alive, I followed what I was feeling. Pushed with my every being, I clung to what I could find. When I was alive, I came to my own conclusions. I loved with my own illusions. I thought that I would survive. Live like I had a reason. I never stood on the side. When I was alive, I held with all kind of people. I honored what was illegal. I was always there for the right. Thank you very much. My name is Scott Free. I have CDs for sale over there. And thank you for coming to the Matthew Shepard March.
Hello, I'm Thomas Gorey.
Hello, I'm Paul Avery.
Welcome to the 11th annual Matthew Shepard March, or as we like to call it, Big Fest 2009.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, Thomas. Okay. Okay, Thomas, you want to start announcing the guests here?
Yeah, also, I would like to, everyone who was in Washington, D.C., thanks for coming out there. And I'm sorry it has to be so cold here. We're freezing our butts off. But we're going to get started with the speakers. I'd like to bring up to the stage Mr. Greg Baird. He's making a film about Matthew Shepard, and he's also brought a video clip. So I'd like to bring up to the stage right now Mr. Greg Baird.
Gosh, it is cold here. I was going to wear my Snuggie out, but I thought I'd trip on the stairs coming out. So, sorry about that. How's everybody doing? You seem so far away, so far away. My name is Greg Baird. I'm a national speaker on gay, lesbian issues and hate crimes to colleges and universities. And I'm really thrilled to be here again this year speaking, and thank you to GLN for asking me. Sorry, I got to keep my hands in my pockets. I'm free. We were having a discussion just the other day, and I'm in my mid-40s, and there's a lot of young people that know about Matthew Shepard but don't know the details or what Matthew was all about. So I just want to take a couple of minutes and kind of let you know what's happening with his life and why we're all gathered here. We all have pivotal moments in our life, and 11 years ago, some of you may remember where you were at when you heard the news about Matthew. And I was working in cold, very cold, northern Michigan as Director of Residence Life and Student Activities. And I was taking care of a lot of students in the residence hall, and I'm always kind of the caregiver. My job has always been. And when that news item came across the airwaves, I was horrified. And horrified for a variety of reasons. One, I looked at it as being a person from rural America that could have been me. And for a lot of you that are gathered here, we have come and live in the city, but a lot of us are from small towns and understand that kind of fear and shame of living out and not people understanding us and who we are. So the other thing was, there were so many students of mine that I thought, you know, there were some that were still in the closet that I knew a lot of them, that could have been them on the fence. And it changed my life virtually in what happened. So I began just a few years ago working on a documentary film that I'm going to show you a clip that I'm very proud to show you, dealing with hate crime legislation, which we need very badly, and also about Matthew and the town of Laramie. For Matthew, what happened on that one night is Matthew just had come out of an alliance meeting, a gay straight alliance meeting, and he had gone down to the Fireside Lounge and met up with two individuals, Aaron McKinney and Henderson, and what they were doing, they were playing pool, and they decided that they were going to act like they were gay and lure him out into the truck. Why Matthew went out with them to go into the truck with them, we have no idea. But they got him out of town. They pistol whipped him on a fence 19 to 21 times with a long-barreled pistol that they used like a club, and left him out there to die. 5 days later, Matthew passed away, and it started a huge revolution for the LGBT community. We are on the verge of another revolution, and we need to keep the momentum up. A lot of us were in Washington, D.C. this past weekend, and again, it's another pivotal moment in a lot of our lives, and if you're watching from home, it was a huge moment, and we need to keep that momentum up. I am tired of our government making these lame-ass promises and say they're going to do this and they're going to do that for us, and we're going to stop DOMA, and then they never do anything just to pacify us, but they like taking our money. So we need to be encouraged in calling people up to the plate and wondering why they're not following through, and making sure that we know when we're going to the voting booth that people are going to follow through with their promises. Because I want to live out the rest of my life not being in fear, and have my gay brothers and sisters in the transgender community out there, and they can live their lives the way they want them. And that's extremely important, and I know all of you agree on that. You wouldn't be gathered here tonight if you did not believe in that. And we need to find some kind of peace, communication, and respect within all communities and with ourselves, because if we're not communicating and respecting one another, nobody else is going to do that for us. Same goes for our history. I was just talking to a young person a few minutes ago, and there's no sense of our gay and lesbian history. And if it's not for us telling it, no one else is going to do it for us. So we need to talk, and we need to talk about it. So without further ado, I'm going to show you this for the first time in a public forum, so thank you for watching this. The film is called Second Class Citizen, Gay Rights in the New Millennium, and speak out loud, and I'm glad that you're here. Thank you so much.
America will not be able to be a force for good abroad unless we are good at home.
You may not stand idly by when your neighbor's blood is being shed.
The next thing we knew, we had tickets to D.C. and we were flying out to lobby for the hate crimes prevention.
We know that some crimes are motivated by a desire to harm whole communities.
I've investigated crimes for all my life, and I've heard over and over it again. We don't need hate crimes. Every crime is a hate crime.
But it's not our duty, nor should we be in the business of distinguishing between different types of murder. Murder is murder.
If I take you out because you're a woman, and I hate women, there should be protections in our country for that.
For too long, the federal government has been forced to fight this injustice with one hand tied behind its back.
Every major law enforcement executive organization in the country backed the legislation.
My friends, this is an important vote for conscience.
Our information was that the Senate and the House both majority backed the legislation. Will one person strip the bill?
I have a proposal that this bill be named the Matthew Shepard bill.
This hate crimes bill will shield the First Amendment rights of the religious groups, and the government will be required to prove the suspect's thoughts as a category of victim, as a victim involved in the crime.
I think that policies that that say, look, it doesn't matter what you think, but you can't act on those beliefs if it interferes with the rights of other people to lead their daily lives. I'm all for that kind of policy.
Our laws in this country are a statement about what society values. This is an unfair law. You can go after a minister who says, gee, relations outside of a marriage of a man and a woman is wrong.
That's not thought policing. That's saying, think what you want. But you can't behave on the basis of those feelings or thoughts if it means that you're going to harm somebody else's liberty.
As a society, it is not okay to kill. It is not okay to steal. And why, as a society and as a country, can we not say it is not okay to target someone because of their difference?
It's paramount that education has a role in stopping discrimination and stopping hate crimes. I want to believe we're not going to have kids come out of school and do what those two boys did.
Even if you don't think it's okay to be gay, or even if you hate someone who's gay, it's not okay to hurt someone because they're gay.
The next generation coming up is going to be the generation that's going to make the most beautiful and positive difference.
You're going to go and speak to your assembly member and senator. You're going to tell them about the issues that matter to you and your community.
My husband, Dennis, calls this last 10 years. 10 years of change, but no progress. Legislatively, at a federal level, we really struggled.
We know that young man was killed in the commitment of a robbery. It wasn't because he was gay. It's really a hoax.
The ways in which things have improved for gay and lesbian people in Wyoming have improved because of things that gay and lesbian people have largely done themselves.
We're still one of a handful of states that have no legitimate hate crimes types of legislation whatsoever.
I don't think it's as hard as it was before Matt died, but we still have such a long way to go.
We've learned a lot, all of us. So we can't make the mistake of thinking that gay marriage will solve everything. We still have to worry about job security. Don't ask, don't tell.
I was wondering if you could describe the difference between the president's decision to intervene with regard to the abuse photos, but not to intervene when it comes to discharging otherwise qualified soldiers because they're gay.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the analogy.
On hate crime legislation, these are steps that still need to be taken nationwide and even at a state level.
Every day that we come to this floor, allegiance to the flag. And at the end of that pledge, we say, with liberty and justice for all.
Our common humanity is more important than these categorical differences.
Greg Baird, ladies and gentlemen, give him another hand. Two things. I'd like to apologize in advance for any of our audio or production quality, but we couldn't get Oprah, the producers, in such short notice. And also, I would like to thank Scott Free for performing, because he's performed at our events ever since we've been having them, and he's done it free of charge. See, I told you. I told you that Scott, he's been doing this ever since free of charge. His name is Scott Free. His CDs are for sale over there on the table, so have a look. And my handsome co-MC is about to announce our next speaker.
Okay, I'd like to introduce, thank you Thomas for the introduction. I'd like to introduce Laura Bautista, a senior civil litigator at the Civil Rights Center. She actually is helping in those in cases against a homophobic cop known as Richard Fiorito over here at the 24th District at Addison and Halstead. And there are actually 20 cases against this man, and Ms. Bautista is actually helping fight these cases. We're actually looking at GLN because he's been put on administrative leave, but we don't think that's enough for a homophobic cop. We want this gentleman to be criminally charged. That's right. And because he would be criminally charged, he'd be too busy to be a witness in criminal proceedings. And unfortunately, because many times he goes over and he stops people, and he stops them, either people of color and people, gay people, and he stops them, and then he has them basically go into court on charges of being drunk, but basically he's just trying to make money off it. So I'd like to again introduce Laura Bautista from the Civil Rights Center. Thank you.
Between January 1st, 2005 and the present, Chicago police officer Richard Fiorito has made more than 800 DUI arrests. Currently, the Civil Rights Center represents 21 plaintiffs in federal court that are seeking redress against Officer Fiorito and the City of Chicago for violations of their civil rights that are protected under the Constitution. In the next coming weeks, we expect to add approximately 20 more plaintiffs alleging that Officer Fiorito is misusing the authority that he has as a Chicago police officer. These lawsuits set forth 11 different claims, including excessive force, false arrest, illegal search and seizure, malicious prosecution, and violation of the plaintiff's right to equal protection under the law. The world has changed in the last 11 years, but we still must act when we see injustice. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Tom?
Now I would like to bring up to stage Oscar Fizel, another victim of Officer Fiorito. He's not available to speak, so we'll move on to the next guest.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce Sue Kolinek. She was a victim of Officer Fiorito's stupidity.
Hello. My name is Susan Kolinek. I am deaf. I was falsely arrested by Officer Fiorito, and I had changed my life. My faith in civil servants has been destroyed because of this man. What happened that night replays in my mind over and over again. I am now fearful when I see a Chicago police officer. I fear for what they may do to me. Fiorito's constant lies and misstatements in court has caused me mental anguish as well as financial losses. Fiorito has tarnished my reputation in the deaf and hard of hearing community. I call upon the mayor of the City of Chicago and the chief of police of the City of Chicago to take appropriate action to see that this disgraced police officer is fired, arrested, and criminally prosecuted. We are winning our fight for equality. But I ask you to realize that some of us will always be deaf. And to condone or accept discrimination as a representative of the deaf community is a violation of our civil rights. If I didn't join this fight for these rights here and now, no one else will. We must stop discrimination now. Even though Fiorito has been placed on administrative leave, this is not enough. We must ask, why has the state's attorney allowed a criminal to testify against innocent people? There are many things we must act upon and act on now. Now, thank you.
Now I'd like to bring up to the stage one of the guys I served with in GLN and is so hot and cute, and I have such a little gay crush on. Brent Gomez.
Wow, what a introduction there. Good evening. I don't need to tell you that LGBT people are a worldwide minority. No matter where you are born, no matter where you are raised, we are a minority. And countries and societies have used that against us to target us, just like Matthew Shepard, and also to criminalize us and to illegalize us. For that reason, many of us seek security and more productive lives by immigrating to other places. Key LGBT issue. I personally was raised in a relatively intolerant rural area. It is still inhospitable today, and I would not move back there. And I am so happy that I was able to move to Chicago, move to a city where I could find community, where I could find legal protections for me, that I can't be fired from my job, that I can be recognized as a full member of this society. The border that I had to cross was from the open border from Indiana to Illinois. My husband also grew up in a rural area that was intolerant, and was even more of a violent type of intolerance than I experienced. He grew up in Mexico, and the move from Mexico to here to be to a more tolerant society was across a closed border. We as LGBT people need to open up those borders so that we can move to places from Indiana, wherever, Mexico, Iran, whatever, move to some place that we are not going to be targeted and killed. And we need to do the work that we're doing just right this evening of keeping Chicago a relatively positive and open place for people to live. Immigration is an LGBT issue, and we all need to support more open borders.
Right.
Even today, if we were, as a couple, my husband and I, to go to Massachusetts and get married, there are no federal benefits. That immigration is a federal benefit, and there's no legal recognition for our relationship. This was particularly brought to light last year when my husband was called for deportation hearings. As we dealt with the concern that we're going to have to leave Chicago and leave our home, we thought, where are we going to go? Mexico, his home country, doesn't recognize us either. Where in this world can a gay couple go and feel secure, and where can we be a great part of society? We have to make sure that immigration reforms that do happen include LGBT people in our couples, as well as people in general having the freedom to flee places where they are targeted, where they cannot get HIV services, where they cannot get other types of services that are particularly relevant to our community. There are several bills in Congress, there's several things being talked about. We need to put all of our force behind making those bills happen. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Right now, there's a huge healthcare conversation, which is wonderful. The great ideals of bringing healthcare to all people. All means all. And right now, the leading healthcare proposal does not include new immigrants, does not include people that have moved in within the last few years to this country. It does not include people that are of undocumented status. And while I'm a citizen and I may get health care and I may have it through the system, if there's a woman next to me on the train who's a recent immigrant to this country or an undocumented immigrant, and she sneezes on me, I am not as well off. If that wonderful immigrant also dies because she has no access to health care, I am not as well off. We need to make sure that health care and immigration rights are released to all people. We are all Americans. It's a land of equals. Be well. Thank you.
Now I'm going to bring up on stage for the fundraising pitch. Yes, this is the part we beg you for money. One of the persons who was identified as sleeping with David Letterman, Mr. Bob Schwartz.
Well, thank you, Thomas, I guess. There are people that I might enjoy sleeping with, but David Letterman is not among them. Now, as Thomas mentioned, this is the fundraising pitch. This is our 11th year, and we are proud of the fact that we have been in Chicago being a voice for direct action as a way to push the envelope for social change. We think it's important to make demands on all politicians, on both political parties. We don't want to be beholden to the electoral fortunes of any candidates, including those who might be openly gay. We think it's important to put demands on the politicians and on both of the political parties. That's one of the things we've been saying for 11 years. And we do these marches to memorialize Matthew Shepard, a victim of anti-gay violence. We do these marches because we think it's important to keep pushing the envelope for gay freedom and against the violence that is still perpetuated against people in our community. One of the people today, and this is just one example, but one of the persons today who is perpetuating this violence is this police officer, Richard Fiorito. And we are here, you've heard this from other speakers, but I'm going to repeat it. We demand that there be criminal charges filed against the Chicago cop, Richard Fiorito. It's not enough that he be taken off the streets finally, after community pressure, he's taken off the streets, something that should have happened months ago, but that's not enough. There need to be criminal charges filed. Another source of anti-gay hate is an outfit that I'm sure all of you know about. It's the organization headed by Peter LaBarbera, the so-called Americans for Truth Against Homosexuality. Now, one of the things we've done for 11 years is to dog LaBarbera and the organizations that he's been connected with. The Illinois Family Institute, known by some of our members as the Illinois Fascist Institute, a group identified as a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. That was one of the groups that LaBarbera headed, and that is still spewing its hate out here in Illinois. The other group is the organization that he currently heads, the Americans for Truth Against Homosexuality. Now, this organization is staging a fundraising dinner this coming Saturday, October 24th, at the so-called Christian Liberty Academy in Arlington Heights. Now, we're going to be there to tell LaBarbera what we think of him and his speaker, Matt Barber, who was fired by Allstate Insurance for attacking us. We're going to be out there to greet LaBarbera and his speaker, Matt Barber, this coming Saturday, October 24th. The event at the Christian Liberty Academy is scheduled for 6:30. Some of you may want to go directly there. You can see me. I can give you the address, 502 West Euclid Avenue in Arlington Heights. A group of us will be leaving from the Metro Center, the Ogilvy Transportation Center, at 500 West Madison Street at 5 p.m. sharp. We're going to go out there on the train. So this is our next activity, and we hope that you will be there to join in our protest of LaBarbera and his hate group. Now, all of this takes money. All of this takes money. So people are going to circulate among you with buckets which we hope you will fill with cash. We have to pay to rent the sound equipment and the stage. There's printing costs and costs for the flags, the banners, and so forth. All of this costs money, and we hope that you will dig deep and put money in the baskets that I think are now being circulated. I see 2 of them. So I'm going to stop this fundraising pitch, but the fundraising will not stop. So as the baskets are passed among you, please be generous. Please help us defray the costs of the rally and other expenses that we have. It is very much appreciated. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. I wanted to actually I want to introduce co-founder of GLN and a mentor of mine, actually a political mentor of mine. He's going to be talking about the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Andy Thayer. Andy?
I actually wasn't scheduled to speak here tonight. We were going to have a gentleman by the name of Juan Torres. For those who don't know him, Juan, he lost his son in Afghanistan. And you may be asking, well, why are we talking about a war several thousand miles away at a gay rights rally? Well, if we're concerned about violence against our community, and we're not concerned about violence against other communities, entire whole nations, then we're not worthy of any solidarity for anti-gay hate crimes. I think we have to say that unfortunately our president is heading in the wrong direction. It seems very clear right now that the 20,000 troop surge that he has just inaugurated several weeks ago, that he's probably going to add another 40,000 troops. This is a man that many people here probably voted for, thinking that they were going to get an end to this kind of violence. And unfortunately, he's ignoring our voices, he's ignoring our bodies, and that's why we need to march. We need to march against the violence, not just against LGBT people, but against any group of people. Juan Torres lost his son. Practically every single day, there are more people, not just in the United States, but far many more in Afghanistan, in Iraq, who are losing their sons. And we have the prospect of a threatened war on Iran now as well. Even though they say this is about Iran having a nuclear program, but of course there's no mention of Israel's nuclear program, no mention of no inspections of the Israel nuclear program, even though they have had nuclear weapons for literally a few decades. We just saw a huge aid package go to Pakistan, a U.S. ally, in spite of that country having a nuclear arms program. The United States has opened up trade with India in spite of that country having a nuclear arms program. So don't listen to the lies, whether they're from the George W. Bushes or our current president, about why this country needs to be funding more wars in the Middle East and South Asia. If we are going to be against violence against LGBT people, we need to be against all violence against all people. So we're going to get marching here in a few seconds. I'm going to just bring up Thomas here again. We apologize, Juan Torres, who could have given this message a lot more effectively than I could. Unfortunately, his car broke down. He couldn't be here tonight, but Thomas will take us out for the march in just a few minutes.
As much trouble as I caused you, I know you could not forget my name. Everyone, we're going to start marching because I know you're cold and none of you have natural padding like I do. So we're going to start marching, and I just want to mention that all the flags with the signs on them, when you come back to here after the march, please leave them over there because we can't afford to buy any more, and we're kind of on a shoestring budget. So let's get ready to march and let Halsted Street be heard that we're marching against racism, we're marching against homophobia, we're marching against the war, and we want our voices heard just like in Washington, D.C. So get ready to put your feet to the pavement, people, and let's march.